Hello, everyone. Welcome to In the Know. This is the series where we are digging into details about the 2023 World Conference. My name is Jenn Killpack, and I serve the church as Director of Communications. And my co-host is Susan Naylor, who is the World Church Secretary and Team Lead for the World Conference Directors. We're also really glad to have Becca and Brittany with us again today on tech support. So if you have questions, please drop those in the chat. We have two guests with us today, Karin Peter and Katie Harmon-McLaughlin. Welcome back, Katie. And we're really thrilled to have Karin join us today. She is a crazy talented person who podcasts, she crafts, she writes, and so much, much more. She's currently serving the church as president of 70, and she's also working with the Formation Ministries team. And she's joining us today in her role as the worship coordinator for World Conference. Welcome, Karin.
Thanks for inviting me to be part of this today.
It's been a long time since we've been together at World Conference, and lots of things have changed over the past 4 years in worship, and people are pretty experienced anymore at attending worship online. And what we believe is that this translates to a larger than usual online worship attendance during World Conference. So this is an opportunity to put our desire to create sacred community, whether in person or online, into practice. And I know, Karin, when your team has been planning and dreaming, you've had to manage the tension that comes between what works in the room and what works online. So tell us a little bit about your worship team and the philosophy that's guiding how worship plans are starting to take place.
So our worship team is comprised of people who work in formation ministries, which in the church, that would be people who participate in a spiritual formation resources and worship and all kinds of writing and creating in the life of the church. And for the purpose of creating worships that would work for our purpose this coming conference, we also included folks from the different aspects of communications, whether it was social media or video. We talked to folks from facilities and sound and everybody we could to get their input in how we could provide the very best hybrid conference, our first hybrid conference here in 2023. So we've been working very hard on this, and for many of us, we've been participating in Zoom church or online church for the past several years. And sometimes that looks just like regular church, only we do it online and we do the same things that we would do if we were together. And sometimes that's successful, and sometimes it's not. And some of us have expanded kind of our repertoire, and we have been doing streaming online church, particularly preparing worships that are for an online engaged audience. But with World Conference, it's different because we want to have a really good experience in the auditorium chamber and in the temple sanctuary where we gather together. But we want to provide an equitable experience for people who are at remote sites, who gather in congregations and watch the live stream, and who maybe watch at home on their computer or on their phone. And so the planning for that is a little more complex, but hopefully it will provide an opportunity for the entire church to interact with one another in a worship setting and to kind of go deeper into what does it mean to adapt to the new technologies and new ways of being together. So we're kind of excited about it, nervous about it, but we've been working on it for some time, and we look forward to seeing how people engage with it during conference.
That is awesome. I'm so excited, and I know you have spent hours and hours in planning and talking with different people how to make this work. So, and the idea of holistic approach to worship is finding expressions through all areas of conference. Katie, there's been a growing awareness of the importance of weaving our conference experience together throughout the day. It's not just we do legislation and then at night we do worship, and they are totally different things. So How is your team creating a way to link all that we do from worship to business to everything in between? Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. It has been a privilege and blessing to work with Karin and the worship team to get a deep sense of the thematic elements for each day and how those are going to be meaningfully coming to life, but then also to link those throughout all the other elements of conference. And so the hope is that from the moment you arrive, you are getting a strong sense of the meaningful and intentional invitations for that day to engage an aspect of our overall theme of courage and the ways that it connects to our guiding scripture of the story of the Good Samaritan. And so you'll see those as you gather in quorum, caucus, and order meetings, in experiences that have been intentionally prepared to connect those thematic focuses. And then you'll also see that throughout the legislative sessions, from the very beginning and ending of each session to those planned and also spontaneously requested moments of blessing that occur throughout the day. And then that will lead us right into the worship experiences. So we're hoping everything will feel really deliberately woven together to hold the entire conference experience in a spirit of prayer and formation, of preparation and transformation as we have this experience together. And we're also really excited about the Moments of Blessing team this year is going to be larger than it has in the past. We're including representatives from around the world who will be sitting toward the front of the auditorium chamber during all of the legislative sessions to hold the entire experience in prayer. There may be times when those people come on stage to lead a song or a prayer or a spiritual practice or something to deepen our awareness and attention to the ways that God is moving in the conference body at that time. But it's also, for me, just a really powerful awareness to have that there is an international group of people sitting prayerful and attentive throughout every legislative session, holding all of us in prayer.
Wonderful.
That makes me goosebumpy, like I should think about it. I love it. I'm really excited about all of the new things coming to conference that we'll be experiencing together. But I also know that sometimes change is hard. And when things are different, it sometimes can feel a little bit unsettling. So Karin, if someone's planning to attend in person or online this year, what are some of maybe the most noticeable changes they might experience?
First, I want to agree with you. It is a little unsettling when there's change, especially something like this where conference is really treasured experience for us, a treasured community experience and also personal experience. And we don't want to do things that are going to cause people grief or pain or a lament during conference. But we are changing some things. And so we just need to be aware of going in that we have good reasons for doing those. And we hope that we have provided avenues for everybody to kind of roll with those changes and still have a good experience. So one that you'll notice is during worship, we're not going to have printed bulletins handed out for the worship services. There will be a brief worship outline published in the daily bulletin that you get with your delegate badge every morning. And you can look in there and that will give you the basic outline of the worship service and any special things or guests that will be participating in the worship services. So that for some people, not having that piece of paper is a little unsettling, but we will provide a link, a QR code, if you're familiar with those, that you can download the worship service, if that short bulletin outline, if you'd like, and have it with you. And if you're not familiar with how to use a QR code, we will have some digital ambassadors, which is code for young people, who will be stationed around the foyers to help us navigate some of those technical challenges to getting to the information that we'd like to have. So we're trying to provide different ways to help when there's a change that might be disconcerting. Another one is that our hymns will be on screen in all 3 languages rather than the hymns printed. You will have a conference hymnal in your delegate materials, but if you visit for a worship service, you will be singing from what is on the screen. And the reason we're doing that is so people at home who do not have a hymnal can participate and sing along with the hymnody that the congregation is experiencing in the chamber. Some other things that are happening take traditional kinds of elements like our ordination service and add elements to them that bring it into this hybrid experience for people. So some of the things you'll see that are different but are an expression of our global diversity are things like our welcomes are pre-recorded and they're from around the world. And so we'll be welcomed to worship from different places in the church. When communion, the emblems are being prepared, you will see on screen emblems being prepared from communion services around the church in multiple settings. You'll see mission stories recorded in the field, music recorded in the field and shared in the worship settings, and even ways to get to know people who are being set apart or ordained for new roles at conference in a different way using the video experiences. So those are different ways to experience our worship, but ways that we hope will bless all of us in the chamber as well as everybody joining us remotely. We also have some interesting guests who will be with us for different worship services. So I look forward to sharing those folks with you on those services. And we have an opportunity to be gracious to people who are experiencing Community of Christ for the first time as they come and participate in worship with us. So as a 70, I encourage all of us to be very hospitable and welcome for that.
So another change I've heard, and you and I have talked about a lot, Karin, is that communion will have a little different look and feel based on what we know. The directors in the First Presidency are strongly encouraging masking while we are indoors. We are providing larger spaces to spread out, and there will be seats or rows that may be blocked off to help with social distancing. And we know the communion service is especially meaningful, and Karin and her team have been exploring many different options to serve communion safely and in a meaningful way. So, Karin, can you share just a little more about the changes that we might see here?
There are some changes, and one of the first that we'll notice is that the way that it looks has been simplified this year. That's one of the things we wanted to do with our worship services, is to simplify processes that allow our staff people to be where they need to be during the week in ways that bless our experience. So with the communion emblems, it was a real interesting time trying to figure out how to do safe and meaningful experience of sacred community. And what we ended up with after months of discussion and testing and trial and error and everything else is that we will be receiving our communion emblems in packets. And so the servers will come around with a large basket tray like this, filled with packets that look like this. If you've bought a bakery item at a farmer's market, you've seen these envelopes before. And in your packet, you will receive your emblems for communion, but you won't open it until after everybody has received their packet, including the folks on the rostrum and the presider of the communion service. And when you are directed to open it, there's a seal on the packet that's perforated to make it easy to tear it open. Can you hear that? Crinkle, crinkle. Imagine that in the chamber with thousands of packets crinkling as we open that. It's going to be a wonderful celebration of noise as we're together. And in our packet, you'll find your emblems. This packet has rice cake and grape juice for the emblems. You may get water. You may get orange drink for your juice. You may get rice cake or tostada shell or bread. All of those options are gluten-free, so we don't need to worry about that. But you won't know when you receive your packet until it's time to open it, which emblems you will receive. The juice are in these sealed cups that are 1 ounce. It's about a 1/3 ounce of the emblem in there. They're easy for the lid to come off and to go back on after you've consumed the emblem, because we'll be using our packets. The last thing in your packet is this. This is one of our words of blessing cards, and everyone's packet will have words of blessing. This is in French and English for this blessing. It's part of the reminder that we come to this sacred moment of our shared table from around the globe, from different contexts and as different communities. And our emblems and our way of being together will represent that at this conference. And we're really excited about that. We also want to let everybody know that these packets, the items in there are recyclable, and we are encouraging people to take them home and to recycle them properly, the paper, to rinse out the plastic and recycle it properly. But in the service, we're going to be using, even after we've had the emblems, we're going to be using our packets again. So we'll hang on to them in our lap, hopefully not crinkling them until it's time to use them a second time. And our friend and colleague, Jan Craybill, will be leading us in a musical experience where the packets are part of that. So I hope that gets you interested enough to be sure to participate either online or in the chamber for the communion experience. The words of blessing are really important, and we want everybody to have one. So we are encouraging congregations, individuals, families, folks at headquarters to download the Words of Blessing template that you can find on cfchrist.org, the World Conference page. Go down to preparation, and in the center, you'll find Words of Blessing, and there are instructions and a template that you can fill out. We have had all kinds of submissions of Words of Blessing, and we are so excited to share them with the church. So please take a few moments and do that. And they can be sent to me via email. They can be scanned and sent through Messenger. I don't care how you get them to us. You can do them with pen and sequins, as some people have done, and send them through the mail. However, you can get them to us. Send them to Karin Peter at care of headquarters. So instructions are on the website.
Yes. And Karin, so far they're coming to you, but they're landing on my desk. And so
Excellent.
I have 2 new envelopes as of yesterday. So very excited. I know how much care and thought have gone into these plans, and I am sure that this will be a beautiful and very meaningful experience. And even though I know some people will miss what has been done in the past, I'm looking forward to creating new traditions that will carry us into the future.
Absolutely.
And with that, talking of the future is a nice segue into our next topic. So, Jen, where do we go from here into the future?
As many of you may have seen online and through email, 2 big announcements were shared on Monday this week with the church. The first is the dates of the next World Conference have been set for 2025. That is going to be May 30th through June 6th. And the second announcement is that President Veazey is announcing his retirement at that same conference in 2025. And he's invited the church into an intentional time of discernment as we look to the future of leadership. And you can find all this information online. It is available at cfchrist.org. And let's see. You can find it under the Connect link So on the main page of seaofchrist.org, under Connect, there's a link to Discerning Future Leadership. And on that page, you can find the information that was shared in the email, and it will be a place where we'll continue to post information. So you can find the basic about copy, some background, and the process. And Katie is going to talk to us a little bit about this. She's been an integral part of the creation of the process with the presidency and with Steve Beasy. And she's agreed to give us an overview today of how this journey is going to unfold over the next couple of months.
Thanks, Jen. Yeah, I've really enjoyed hearing all of the responses from people since this announcement went out. And I know that people are processing this news in a variety of ways, many expressing deep gratitude for President Beasy's leadership and for all of the ways that the church has been formed over the last 20 years. And also looking toward the future with excitement and a sense of fresh vision and new possibility. And I think another thing that we've really heard is an appreciation for the ability to be partners in discernment over the next several months as we discern together who is called into this important role in the life of the church. But we're also invited to turn our hearts toward the kind of future church community of Christ desires to be and where the call of God is for each of us amid this emerging vision. And that's why, as you'll see online, as this discernment process unfolds, the questions are not just who, but also what. What is God inviting of community of Christ? Where are we called into the future, and what are the next faithful steps? And we'll also be looking as we move through this process at what are the unique challenges, situations, opportunities? What are the kinds of leadership styles, qualities, gifts, and skills that are needed for this particular time and for the future in community of Christ? You'll notice as you look online that this process follows a rhythm of pray and share. And so starting now this month in March and going through January 2024, every month there will be an opportunity for you to submit your participation in this process. During the pray months, you'll be invited to submit a prayer. And during the share months, you'll be invited to submit those thoughts and insights, feelings and images that are coming up for you as you spend intentional time moving through this process. And you're invited to do that personally, but also in community with your congregation, sacred community, or other groups. You'll notice that for March, the practice is really to begin by spending time praying for spiritual freedom, which is a beginning part of any discernment process. And that essentially is about laying aside our own personal agendas and assumptions, though we know that sometimes we can't do that entirely. We want to be aware of what is it that might be keeping us from being most open to God's emerging call for us as that becomes clear. And we desire to be in that posture of openness to God, to each other, to our own selves as we're moving through this process so that we can get more of a sense of God's invitation and vision for us. And so with open hearts, we are invited to prayerfully imagine our first question for discernment. God, where is your Spirit leading us next as a worldwide church? And you'll notice that every question has what's called an alternative question, and that is deliberately intended to be an opportunity for children and youth or anyone to consider the question as well and to submit writings or drawings or whatever it is that is evoked as they spend time with that question. So the alternative question for this month is, God, what do you want us to do next to make the world a better place? And I just want to point out that this question was deliberately intended to be about what is emerging. So we might not see the whole picture of the future at once. We know that we are in a time of a lot of exciting and difficult change, as we've already mentioned. But to really begin to notice what is the next faithful step? What is the next thing that is emerging to which Community of Christ is called? And so we invite you to join us on this journey as partners in discernment. The First Presidency is really looking forward to receiving the prayers and the feedback of the church in a variety of ways. And your participation is going to be instrumental in shaping not only who will lead us next in this pivotal role for the church, but what kind of church Community of Christ will continue to be shaped into as we move into God's preferred future.
That's wonderful. There's a lot to take in, but God is leading us. That is a truth that I think we can testify to. So thank you, Katie, for your work and your ministry. Wow. Today we've gone a little longer than anticipated. And I do want to, there was a question asked, and I do want to address that. The question was, what about people who opt to not partake of communion? Will they, the question just rolled. Will they get a blessing card? And how will they participate in the second activity? I can assure you that in the communion baskets, there will be the crinkly envelope with a blessing card in it for those that would like to be a part of the communion experience, but for their personal reasons why they will not take communion that day. And so it's questions like these that help us to think and to grow and to make sure that we are including as many people as we can. So thank you so much for your question. And I know I'm looking at Karin on the screen, and I know she is making sure that's going to happen. So thank you so much, everyone. And so I think that about wraps it up for today. I want to thank everyone who joins us live, and remember to visit seaofchrist.org for World Conference announcements, or catch them on our Facebook, our Instagram, or Twitter channels. And we will see you in a couple of weeks for our next In the Know.